My name's Mark. I am the Year 6 teacher and Key Stage 2 lead, and before Catherine took my job I was also maths lead for 6 years here. And hopefully what I'll be able to show you here is that this resource can be utilised all the way through primary school, because when you call or talk to maths leads, the assumption in the back of the head with any concrete resources, this will work for EYFS, this will work for Key Stage 1, and then you kind of get into Key Stage 2 and people assume either that we don't need these anymore, which is completely false, or that whatever you're selling probably won't work in Key Stage 2 because the numbers are too big. We're into our millions by the time we get up into upper Key Stage 2, and then how can we use this to support? But this product, I feel quite strongly, fills a niche in Key Stage 2, and someone already mentioned Numicon earlier on, so I'm going to prove how your product has something that Numicon cannot replicate and can absolutely, again, it sounds like quite a big thing to say, but genuinely change the lives of children. And so I'm going to model how to use the rods in particular to do something called bar modelling. And I don't know if in your research or your kind of schooling you come across bar modelling. If you haven't, the natural reaction when we introduced this in schools 6 or 7 years ago was kind of, what the hell is this? It makes maths more confusing, I don't understand it. And if you're selling to schools in 2021, you need to know, certainly if you want to sell to Key Stage 2 or primary schools, which will run all the way through, you need to have an idea of bar modelling. If you've got a good idea of bar modelling, like I say, this is a real USP here. So bar modelling is a way of providing a conceptual model. And if I was talking to a school, I'd want to say that to the maths lead. This product provides a conceptual model to support children's understanding. If you profile the kind of kids that come into Key Stage 2 who are behind, and again, that lowest 20% is something that's in education at the moment. A lot of it's coming from the government, a lot of the outside partners we're working with at the moment will repeatedly talk about the lowest 20% because that's a real focus at the moment. When you look at our lowest 20% coming out of Key Stage 1 into Key Stage 2, they do tend to fit a quite typical profile. These might be children who are quite confident with number. They can add, they can subtract, and as soon as you show them a question like that on the board, like there's classic questions, sometimes on the internet or whenever you're in school, I'm sure you'll recognise them. Old school word problems, they fall apart. And the reason that is because if you're running an intervention in Key Stage 2, you can sit a child down for 10 minutes every afternoon and teach them how to add 305 and 402 using a method that they can just copy, and after a while they'll get that method and they'll understand it. But as soon as you put it into a context, finding the maths in there, most people I'm sure can find the maths in there just looking at it, but when you're 6, 7, 8 years old and someone's throwing that much information at you, if you don't throw on top of that lots of our lower pupils have English as an additional language, they might still be very good with number. They might be able to do 42 add 20 easily, but finding 42 add 20 in there, that could be more tricky. So I'm going to show here how we would use this at Fremantle to support this lowest 20% of pupils in Key Stage 2, work through a few problems to show you bar modelling. But if you look at it and think, what is this? Why are you using it? Please just bear in mind that, as kind of Catherine's alluded to and Nina said, our lower children obviously are coming into year 3, having had 3 or 4 years of maths, not being where they need to be, not being confident with maths, coming at it from a very different angle that most adults are in terms of where they are with their maths. So you might show a child a question like this, and if they're confident with maths, how many stickers did Lara have after she buys 20 more? They see that they need to do 42 out of 20. But if they don't know that, we can use bars, or the rods in this case, as bar models. And what we're looking for is for the child, over time through an intervention program, which we did a little bit of work on over summer, to be able to start using these bar models. So this is a bar, and it represents Lara. And what we get is lovely whiteboards. I'm going right upside down, so apologies if I get anything wrong. I'll go L. And we have this discussion with the child. Okay, so this is a bar that represents Lara. Lara's numbers in here. Do we know how many stickers Lara has? And we do. And hopefully the child can say that Lara's got 42 stickers. And we take it a bit at a time. And we say, okay, so what else does it tell us about Lara in that question? It says she buys another 20 stickers. Okay, so we ask the child, can you give me a rod that shows 20? Maybe they choose this one and we have that discussion around, or hold on a second, we had 42 represented here. Is there a better choice? 20 equal to 42, less than, so it's less than. And can we label that? Yeah, we can. We can label that 20. Now, if you're really good at maths, you're probably thinking, what on earth? Why do we need this? We definitely don't need this. It's 42 out of 20, but again, just remember it's the children for whom that much information needs to be broken down. This provides a conceptual model, because now we ask the child, well, what can we work out? We know she had 42, that's it. We know we added another 20 on, that's this bar. What can we work out? And almost all children at that point will be able to say, oh, we can work out a total. And that's where we can go and we can do whatever method of addition that the child is happy with, because they've been taught again and again, maybe column addition, they know how to do that. What they didn't know was how to get there from all that information. So then we get our answer of 62. So that's it at quite a simple level. And we get into our second part, which then asks about a mirror. And a mirror has 85 stickers, so we're going to make another bar now. So what we're doing here is we're breaking this down from what was a huge chunk of information, breaking it down into step by step by step. And this isn't something I would expect a child to have got this by now. This is something that takes time. This is an intervention that can be done across a whole term probably. We get to a mirror, she has 85. So again, oh, he has 85, whatever. We ask the child, can you get a bar that shows a mirror's amount? We know this is 62, so we can get into that conversation about number again. We know this needs to be bigger. We'll label this A. And what do we know about a mirror? Well, we know a mirror had 85 stickers. Is that right? So we can label that on. I'm upside down, I'm sorry. But the question what it's asking us now, I've got all this information down here. We know Lara has 62, a mirror has 85. What's the question asking us? It's how many more stickers does a mirror have than Lara? And again, it's the how do we get there question that can be quite tricky for children. And what I liked about this was, we can put that there, and we can put that there to show that that's the same. So our question is, well, if a mirror's got more, where is the more? And that sounds like a really silly question, but it's the kind of question that underpins this, because what does it mean to have more? Physically, this is more. So we know this is worth 62 because it's the same colour, it's the same size, and that's so important because often when we talk about bar modelling, we get the children to draw it, and inevitably this is Lara, and then this is a mirror, and there's no kind of, oh, this is the difference. It gets very confusing, but with a concrete model like the rods that you sell in your packs, this is the more. It's really clear. I can put this on top of it, this is the more, okay? So if I've got 85 and 62, the conversation then is, well, how do we work out what's more? We subtract. And we get to the point where the child's probably happy with subtraction. This provides the conceptual model and understanding that gets to there. If you've not seen this before, you can see, like I say, when we introduced it in schools 7 years ago, the reaction first of all was, this is really weird, it's just too confusing, but it's really not, I promise you it's not. And my next couple of slides will show that this might be bar modelling at year 2, but when we get up into year 6, we're still using the principles here. And Catherine, can I trouble you to be quick there? Sorry. Thank you so much. And to go back to the question earlier on, this cannot do this. It can't, because it's not a bar. That's not a bar, it's a pattern, and one of the strengths of this product is the fact that it's a pattern, but as was mentioned earlier, we want children to see number in a different way, but this cannot do this. So your kind of USP when going into Key Stage 2 is, any school who are doing well in maths or care about maths will be using bar models because it's part of the mastery curriculum. It's not referenced specifically, it's referenced as pictorial models. But any scheme, whether it's White Rose, NCETM, Maths No Problem, will use bar modelling. So when people say, I've got Numicon, why do I need count up? Do you have an intervention that supports your older pupils with their conceptual understanding? Because that doesn't do it. So if we move on, really. No, that happens, it's quite useful. So we move into Key Stage 2. This might be for Key Stage 1 people who's entered into Key Stage 2. They're a little bit behind because they come in and they might have gaps in the curriculum, but this, as a model, will help them to access that curriculum. So the next one, again, if you're happy with maths, even if you're 7 or 8 years old, we can see it's 300 subtract 120. But if we have the same principles, okay, find me a bar that shows how many cakes Kim has baked. She's baked 300. And so what we're going through now is a really familiar, we did this last time, we're just putting information on a bar model. We know she sold 120. Find me a bar that shows 120. And we can label it. This is what she sold. And if I had more time, I'd put an S. So if this is what she sold, we know we started with this. We're missing something underneath. What's missing? What's this? If that's the cake she sold, what's this? This is the cake she has left. So what we're finding is we're finding this. She had that, she sold those. You can literally pick it up, show the child physically, I'm taking that away. You can't do that with a picture. You could rub it out, I guess, but it'll be confusing because in a minute you want to put it back. If this is what she sold, what's this? This must be what she has left. Again, now we're into the maths, 300 subtract 120. And because beforehand we've done something very similar, because we can physically pick this up and remove it, it unlocks the maths that often this lowest 20% of pupils really struggle. The concepts underneath the maths. 300 subtract 120, fine. Even most of our children who join with English as an additional language will be fine with that. It's finding the maths in it. Do one more, Catherine. I think maybe ratio 1 next. Do the fractions. Okay, so we get into our Year 6 content. And when the new curriculum came in 7 years ago, it came in, and the test the year the new curriculum came in had a question like this, and almost all of our children ignored it. So Amy reads 3/7 of a book on Sunday. On Saturday she read the other 84. And the reason they ignored it isn't because they can't do 84 divided by 4, because they can't see 84 divided by 4 in there. So again, we come back to a really familiar model, and if you're bored already, that's a good thing, because children it's the same thing each time. We find a bar to represent, in this case, 7. So the nice thing about this is that this time we'll want one-to-one correspondence. We'll want the child to pick up 7. Do we know how many book pages there are in Amy's book? No, because that's what we're trying to find out. Question mark. What do we know? We know on Sunday she did 3/7. Often, what you might find people say to you is, oh yeah, we do bar modelling, but we draw it. And that's fine. That's where we want our children to get to in terms of their own bar modelling. But for the kind of children I was working with last year, trying to catch up 3 or 4 years worth of learning that they'd fallen behind on for a variety of different reasons, just being able to put that down means they don't have to think, right, ruler, pencil, how many boxes does it need to be? It needs to be 7, I'm going to draw it, just put it down, we can focus on the maths. So if this is Sunday, this is Saturday. Do we know anything about Sunday or Saturday? And it's an intervention program, so all we're doing is each time we ask the same questions, what do we know? We know that on Saturday she read 84. And then again, the nice thing about this resource, which you can't do with a picture, is you can now go, okay, that's Saturday, that's Sunday. So we know that on Saturday she read 84, so we can even put that there if we want to make it really clear. And at this point, children should have been doing enough bar modelling to know that any time with fractions, and I've jumped straight into the top of fractions, but there'll be loads you could do before this. Anytime we work with fractions, we need to work out what one part is worth. Well, if 84 is 4 parts, again, at this point, the maths itself is just 84 divided by 4. So what the bar model is doing is making the maths really clear. And like I said, I've jumped ahead a little bit. We'd have done work before this kind of question, supporting children's bar modelling and fractions. But 84 divided by 4, don't have any kids that I work with kind of most years that can't get to that, do the maths there. But I'll have a lot of children who, looking at that kind of question, won't have the understanding and will need a model to know that's worth 21. And then that's worth 21, we multiply it by 7 to get the full bar. So 7 years ago, when that came up in my children I was teaching, they didn't do very well on that. We spent a lot of time reflecting on our maths. We invested in a lot of different maths resources. We now bar model everywhere in school. There are always going to be children who would benefit from this. I can think of 4 I taught last year who would benefit from the concrete nature of this, but it just unlocks those kind of problems. So like I say, when you're thinking of trying to sell a product like this, I think the people you're talking to will assume that it works for the younger pupils, and you saw Nina and Catherine in loads of different ways it would work with younger pupils. When I was maths lead, the questions were, yeah, how much is it? How can it help my Key Stage 2 pupils? Because they're the ones that sometimes get forgotten. And also, what can it do that Pneumacon can't? Because we have Pneumacon, we had Pneumacon. Pneumacon is great, but there are some serious benefits here and some real things that Pneumacon cannot do. And this, if you're talking to a school that really knows their stuff about maths, who's really serious about maths and is following the curriculum properly, they will be bar modelling. So if you start talking to them about bar modelling and how this can provide a conceptual model for your Key Stage 2 pupils, I was a maths lead, that would get my attention.